Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another installment of Flyer Gonna Flyer, our 64th episode. We got a real good one for you guys today, leading things in. As usual, we'll be going over last week's game. 1-0-2 week. Kind of weird, but okay. 4 out of 6 points. Can't get too upset with that, I guess. Also, Flyers. Not getting Quinn Hughes. We're going to go into that a little bit later today. We'll go over that. Christian Dvorak. He's been on a bit of a bender. I think he's at 21 or 22 points in 30 games so far this season. A decision might need to be made on this guy in the offseason. Are you going to re-sign him? Or was he just a rental? And would he be potentially blocking people if you did re-sign him? We'll go into him a little bit. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about some season-long issues as well with the team just in general that me and Eric may have, especially leading around. Why the hell does this team keep giving up the first damn goal so much? But we got a good one just in general. As always, one of my two gracious co-hosts to my left, you know, you love him, Mr. Eric Martino. Eric, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing all right. Another week of Flyers hockey. And we played some good teams, man, this past week.
We did.
I don't know if we're, because you said 1-0-2, but like if we're including the Avs game, because technically.
That is true. So 1-1-2 if you
1-1-2. But you know what, man? We played some good teams, and even though we might not have technically a winning record, I thought they played pretty well. So
you know, they're not getting killed in the games they lost. They lost 3-2 to Colorado. They lost 4-3 last night as we're recording this to Carolina in the first of the home and home. They lost.
First shutout loss of first shootout loss of the season.
Overtime to Vegas. I got some fucking thoughts on that. I'll go into that in a little while. And then they had a nice home win against San Jose in a game I think they kind of thoroughly dominated. FYI, folks, as well, Jamey will be joining in shortly. I actually just received a text from him. He should probably be here hopefully in the next 15 minutes or so. So he'll be hopping in as well. But, Eric, why don't I let you lead us in? What did you think of this week's games?
Yeah, look, listen, it was a tough week, man. Like, let's put our cards on the table. Look, they played the Avs. They're the number one team in the league. They played San Jose. Now, look, granted, San Jose is not a great team, but like they're 19th in the league right now. They played Vegas, 4th in the league. Carolina, 3rd in the league. So what I took from this is one, against like those top three, like three of those top teams, we didn't get our asses kicked. We didn't get our asses kicked. One went into overtime, one went into a shootout, and we lost one in regulation. So all 1-goal games, because we lost 3-2 to the Avs, 1-goal games. So basically what this told me is, look, we're not ready at this point to compete with those top teams right now, but man, we're close. Because look, against the Avs, I thought we started off pretty well. Then the Avs just took over, but then we had a great third. Now, was that because also the Avs were tired? They were coming off of a long road trip, this and that, whatever. Fine, okay. But like we played Vegas and we hung there with Vegas, and like we could have easily won that. Well, not easily, but like we had a chance to win that game. We could have won it just as much as Vegas did. And same with Carolina. I thought Carolina, the second period, I don't know what happened, but like we'll talk about this later in the next segment. But like second period, the switch just went off, and it's like, nope, don't feel like playing right now. But then the third period, they came back and they played well. And so look, it's a lot of, some good and some bad, but at the same time, like I said, like it's positive because like we're able to hang with these guys. We didn't look out of place. And then against a team like San Jose, where, okay, look, they're not where they're supposed to be yet, San Jose either, and we beat them. We dominated that game. We controlled that game. So we beat the teams that we had to beat, and we hung around with the teams that technically should have beat us, and they did. But like I said, we took one to overtime. We took one to a shootout, and it was a 1-goal game against the Avs. So very positive things. One more positive: the fourth line. 2 goals this week by the fourth line.
Same guy, Carl Gunstrom. Maybe he was what the doctor ordered.
Fourth line savior, Carl Gunstrom.
Who would have saw that coming? Wasn't he just a throw-in of the Ryan Ellis trade?
Oh my god!
Isn't that ironic?
I think I don't remember if I brought this up on a previous episode, but like, great trade by Danny. He gets rid of a guy that will never play in the NHL again. And now, granted, San Jose needed that extra cap space, like, because once they start flipping guys at the deadline, like they need like money to like keep at the cap limit. So, and then he actually got, and the thing is with Carl Gunter, I'm like, this guy's not an AHL veteran. This guy's played NHL games. He's an NHL body, a guy that can play in this league. So, like, just getting anything for fucking Ryan Ellis is a plus. And now he's helping that fourth line become actually a viable line. So no, like, good for Gunter, man. 3 points in three straight games. He's got like 2 goals and assists, man. Just pretty decent week for Flyers hockey.
Yeah. I got mixed opinions on this week. I agree. It's good and comforting to see that this team can hang with the high quality teams. Like, listen, I didn't catch any of the Colorado game. Unfortunately, I was quite busy on last Sunday. So, but the sheer fact that they kept that game 3-2, they were thoroughly outshot from what I seen, and then kind of ended up putting pedal to the metal a bit in the third period to try to fight back a bit. So I'm not going to act like that I'm going to be doom and gloom about this week, because you hang with the best team in the league. You didn't get any points out of it, but you only lost by a goal. You were there to the end in a game that was kind of like a game that was like a true measuring stick. Then the San Jose game, you allow the first goal, and then the switch kind of got flipped. You outplayed them. That was probably one of the better games they've played all year. You know, Christian Dvorak, Trevor Zegras, Travis Konechny line continues. Definitely was the best line all week. Trevor Zegras, point per game, 30 games, 30 points right now. Continues to just show how fantastic a trade that was for Danny Briere. This guy is going to, barring injury, most likely obliterate his career high in points. I think it was, 62 going into the year, 63, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
If he stays healthy, he's going to beat that the way he's going. He's been a man on a mission all season. You see, Konechny is starting to kind of find his game. Massive gap in that game against Vegas. Although, believe it or not, he's not the guy I was most pissed off at that play. I was bullshit at Sean Couturier's bullshit-ass effort there. And I don't know how I had one of my followers, no disrespect to it, was kind of coming to his defense. And I just don't understand how. Because when you look at that play in that Vegas game, and if you give me a guy I want to shit on the most this week, it's Sean Couturier. Because he had a fucking dog shit week. Dog shit, top to bottom. I'm pissed at him right now. First of all, you look at his piss poor effort coming back on the back check there, especially after the crap he said about Matvei Michkov. Funny enough, to the media, this our former Selke winner, the 200-foot guy, he's fucking skate back on that and lack of effort. I mean, you can say what you want about Emil Andre potentially blocking the pass lane on that 1-team overtime. I get that. You know, Andre probably could have blocked that and went under his legs, so be it. But you got to be Mark Stone was your guy. They were skating side by side together the whole way, and he just got beat. Completely beat. And his lack of effort, he just sticks the stick out at Mark Stone, taps in a one-timer off a great feed from Jack Eichel. Konechny whiffed on a pass, but then he kind of had his stick held by Eichel. I'm mad at TK for the F-up, but F-ups happen. He made an effort at least. Couturier did not. And then we fast forward to yesterday's game against Carolina. Him and Gunstrom at a 2-1-0. This guy gets close to 90 fucking passes it again. This is the second time this guy has had a clear point-blank shot at the net, and he passes it up to fucking nothing. What
he was in too tight. He was in too tight. Why do you make that pass?
What is he doing? Shoot the fucking puck. Stop galaxy braining it. Shoot the fucking puck. You're the captain of this team. You're supposed to be the guy that leads by example. Dude, he's been overthinking shit all year. And he is without a doubt my wet fart of the week friggin' award, if I'm going to give this out. Because he's got to look in a mirror, man. He's already slow as dirt to begin with. And now we start to make mental gaffes. This is where your game is, Coops. You're supposed to be good in the dot. You're supposed to have a 200-foot game. You're supposed to be a smart player. Well, the third one ain't there, that's for sure. And your 200-foot game sure don't look it as of this week either. So you've got my attention, but not for the right reason. He better wake the fuck up, because that's not a good way to lead by example at all. Konechny, he gets a pass for me. Made the gaff, happens. He's at least been playing better offensively. He's been more productive offensively. I still have my issues with TK as a whole this year. He was better last year, but at least he's being productive offensively. So I can at least give him some level of pass. Couturier, nah, that shit's got to change. Stop fucking passing the puck on breakaways, buddy, especially in stupid situations. If you're going to pass it, at least make it at an opportunity where the guy you're passing it can fucking shoot the puck on net. But, sorry, that tirade had to be let out. Mitch Cobb, stop taking penalties, man. This is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think he's got 7 in his last 8 games. This trend needs to be. I think that's the second most in the league, minor penalty-wise, in that time frame. He has got to stop taking penalties. You're giving the coach a reason not to play you. But I will say he didn't have the best week, even before that. He had opportunities. Him and Tippett feel like they've kind of connected a little bit. I feel like in that Vegas game especially, him and Tippett was starting to find some legitimate chemistry. I want Couturier off the middle of that. I don't mind him and Tippett together anymore, contrary to what I said at the beginning of the year. I'd like to try Noah Cates there at some point. Something, maybe even move Zegras at some point. I don't think they're going to, because I think they want to keep Zegras, Dvorak together bare minimum, and whoever they have as a third guy probably going to be connecting for the time being. Swap Noah Cates there and put Couturier down to the third line. I'm sick of seeing this guy in the top 6. I can't do it anymore. But I am glad. Positives for the week: Christian Dvorak, Trevor Zegras, Travis Konechny. That line as a collective whole looked good, even if Konechny, as I gave his gaffes to. Carl Gunstrom. Round of applause to this kid. 2 big goals. 2 big goals in 2 different games. Got the Flyers a point last night after giving up that goal against after Carolina jumped out to a 3-2 lead with a little over 7 to play. I thought, okay, this team ain't getting shit tonight. They got a 2-on-1, and he snipes one by Kochekov. This kid's giving you something on the fourth line. I don't see how D'Lo should find a spot back in this lineup. I'm starting to wonder where Hathaway finds a spot in this lineup. And Ty Hutchinson, this kid deserves a little bit of respect too. I think he is a bruiser. I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't send him back down. Even when York and Risto are back, I think he's making Nick Seeler look very expendable. And it makes you wonder, that contract maybe feels a little premature. I feel like Seeler fit a lot better in John Tortorella's system than he does in Rick Tocchet, because shot blocking is his thing. Blocking passing lanes is his thing. He's a good defensive guy, but he's just there now. It's not like he's been bad, but he's just there. He doesn't really give you anything from a defensive perspective now. I think he's just making Nick Seeler very expendable. When Risto and New York are back, Andre, Munchausen, Drysdale, York, Sanheim, and Risto should be the 6 main D-men you have, and Juleson slides in as your 7th defenseman. I think Seeler might be a guy that you consider, even though he's got term left on that contract, you might want to consider moving and then just send Igor Zamula to the moon. I don't care what you do with him. But, yeah, that's my collective thoughts this week. Like I said, positive perspective, 1-2. 2 overtime losses against 2 high-quality teams. You played 3 out of your 4 games were against good teams. And as you mentioned, Eric, they kept up with them. They played solid hockey against teams like that. They got another game today against Carolina in the second half of home and home. They're about to start a massive road trip. They got 9 out of the next 10, I believe, on the road. 8 out of 9 or 9 out of 10, something like that. They have 1 more home game the rest of the calendar year. And that's it. Then I think it's 9 out of 10. I think they got 4 straight on the road all this week. Then they got 1 game at home. And then they got Chicago and then the Western Canada road trip before coming back home in January. But this will be a big test for them. But, Eric, anything else you want to add on this week's games?
I just want to touch on just a little bit on what you were saying with Mishkov and the penalty minutes. Look, he's taken 20 penalty minutes in the last 11 games. That's almost 2 per game. That's not great.
Penalty game, pretty much.
And but he had 12 in it, like before that, it's like 12 in the first 19. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, and like the thing is, sometimes you're like, okay, whatever, but like there was one he took yesterday where like that was just a lazy stick penalty, like stick right into the player's skates. Like you had no chance at the puck. Why are you swinging there? So yeah, like you said, it has to get cleaned up like a lot, because I was thinking of this yesterday. I was just like joking to myself, but like I don't know, like because the big thing with Mishkov's ice time and whatever. But that's something I want to go in. Maybe I'll go into a little bit more next week, because I see like a little trend. But anyway, but because me, I'm like in my head, I'm like, okay, well, Tocchet didn't want to play him at the beginning of the season because he was fat. Well, now he's back in shape. So and then he's like, well, then Tocchet doesn't want to play him because he doesn't play defense. Well, yeah, well, now he's playing better defensively.
He is. He's been better defensively this year than last year, for sure.
So then it's like, okay, well, Tocchet doesn't want to play him because he's not putting up points. Well, yeah, he's putting up points now. He's pretty much, I think he's 6th or 7th on the team, but like he's been putting up points lately. So it's like, okay, so what's the new excuse for Tocchet not to play him? He's taking too many penalty minutes. So it's like, I don't know. So
wheel of excuses for Tocchet, it seems like. He didn't have the best week. I think he's been pointless in his last 3 games or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but either way, this is where sophomore slumps come into play, and you just say you've got to let the kid play through this. You look, kid out in San Jose. We just played again. Macklin Celebrini, seeing 20+ minutes a night every night, or something close to that. Leo Carlson out in Anaheim. He is pretty much looked at as one of a first-line center now for them. He's seeing high-end minutes almost every night. Cutter Gauthier, also out there. He's seeing constant high-end minutes almost every night. Like you're seeing Connor Bedard. Look at his minutes. Seeing it all the time. I by the way, quick thing on him. Hopefully he's okay. He did suffer an injury the other day. That's unfortunate for hockey just in general. Hopefully he's good. But yeah, you've got to. I don't care if they're not being productive right now. The Flyers named Michkov and Martone untouchable and Forster the next closest thing. Well, why aren't you showing that with his ice time? Why aren't you showing that on the ice? It contradicts what you say. Well, if you're going to consider a guy untouchable, play him like he is. He's getting an average of 14 minutes a night. That's not enough. He should be getting the minimum of 17 in my eyes. Minimum. Beginning of the year, as you mentioned, Eric, absolutely agree. I can give him the excuse then because he came into camp out of shape and acknowledged it. I think we're going to see a completely different player next year. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, especially with him training here in Voorhees, both over the Olympic break and the offseason. But now that he's back in shape, what's the excuse? All I got to say on that, what's the excuse? But, yeah. With that being said, let's move on to our next point. Christian Dvorak. Let's lead off with him. He's been a very pleasant surprise to this team. Honestly, all of Danny's signings, they've all been great this year. He's been great. Obviously, Dan Vladar has been great. Trevor Zegras has been probably found a hit, revitalized his career here, playing like an 80-point guy this season. Fantastic to hear just in general. All things aside, Christian Dvorak deserves his flowers. So I think in 30 games, like I said, he's got 21 or 22 points. I'm going to take a quick peek at that real quick. It's either 21 or 22.
Oh, I saw 21.
What'd you say?
I saw 21 this morning, so
it is 21.
7 goals, 14 assists.
So 7 goals, 14 assists, 21 points in 30 games. Guy's on pace to shatter his career high. He's never even hit 40 points before. If he keeps this up, he's going to hit over 50. So, this leads into the conversation. Christian Dvorak, a decision is going to be made this offseason. They signed him to a 1 year, $5 million contract, and a lot of fans were pissed at it at the time. I wasn't, because it was only a year. It was whatever. You had to use that cap somewhere. Now the decision needs to be made. If it was any other position, I feel like this wouldn't be this hard of a call. You probably either trade him or let him walk just because of what you have coming up at the winger or defense position. But the constant criticism of this team has definitely been how weak they are at center. It's outside of Luchenko, who do you have coming up soon? Jack Berglund, who's a bottom 6 guy. Nesbitt, who, like we have mentioned, is a reclamation project, who's, as you've said, probably 3 years away at best, who
Probably.
really hasn't been turning all that much heads down in the OHL. So, with that being said, what are we doing here? Let me start with you, Eric. Do we re-sign Christian Dvorak, or do we let him walk? Big picture here.
Okay. I wouldn't. Okay. And I'll tell you why. I think what Dvorak is doing right now on that line with Zegras and like whoever they rotate on that right side, I think like we have Noah Cates that he's just as capable to do whatever that like Dvorak is doing right now. And Noah Cates is actually a little bit better defensively than Dvorak. So I think we have basically a Dvorak replacement already on the team. Problem is, one, Dvorak way better at faceoffs than Noah Cates.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, because Dvorak, I was looking, Dvorak has never been under 50% in his career other than his rookie season when I think he was like 46%. So he's been over 50 every single year. So, like, he's a great faceoff guy. Yes. And like you were saying, look, he's having a career year. I was looking at some of the numbers. He's on pace for 57 points this year. That's a 0.7 points per game pace. He's never even been close to that in his career. His best before this was the 21-22 season with Montreal, where he had 33 points in 56 games at a 0.59 points per game pace. So that's about a 48-point pace. So you're like, okay, he's roughly 45 to 50 point player, let's say. Okay, decent. Is okay second line center, probably high end third line center. Now the thing is, like, you're looking at what he's doing now. Now, is this a product of playing with Zegras? Okay, like, which it most probably is. But now he fits so well with Zegras. Oh, but we have to keep him. That's why I would really like to see at a certain point Dvorak taken off the line and Cates put there instead, just to see. Basically, just to see. Because look, at the end of the day, also, he's having a career year right now. Okay. And he is a center. What's half of the league looking for right now? A center. So if he hits free agency on July 1st, he's probably the second best center available. I think maybe Nick Schmaltz would probably be best available center. After that, it's most probably Christian Dvorak. So, like, look, I can see a team desperate enough, like a Vancouver, a Nashville. No, well, not Montreal because he was there before. But, like, some teams out there that are, like, really desperate for a center that are like, you know what? What if we give Dvorak $6.5 million on, like, a 6-year deal or something? Are the Flyers willing to match that? Is it smart for us to match that? I don't think so. I really don't. Because look, eventually you're going to have to pay Forrester. Eventually you're going to have to pay Mishkov. We have to pay Zegras. We have to pay Drysdale. So do you want to invest that much money into a guy that is having a career year that might end up regressing and becoming your third or fourth line center?
Can I give an opinion?
Go ahead, Rick.
You know what they say? Never give a big contract to a guy that's been around for a while and then has a career year, because that's an outlier.
Exactly.
So, but Devo's a good signing for you guys, but not at that kind of money. If you're going to sign him 2, 3, 4, you're not at that kind of money.
Like, if he's willing to take, let's say, like, even like a 4-year deal at 4.5, let's say by 4 by 4.5, even 5 by 4.5. You know what? I could live with that, because if this really is just an outlier season and we got to move him down the lineup, I'm willing to eat that money, because look, where the cap is going, that's probably going to be a low end 3 or like a high end 4th liner.
Yeah.
So I'm fine if you want to give him that money. But again, my whole thing is, if he's going to, like, if you're his agent, okay, you're Dvorak's agent, would you say, hey, sign this contract right now with the Flyers, 4 by 4.5? Or are you going to be, listen, buddy, like, come July 1st, there's a good chance someone's going to give you 6.5, 7. Maybe. Someone's going to be desperate enough to do it. And guys, we've been hockey fans long enough. We've seen the Andrew Ladd contract, David Clarkson contract, David Backus contract.
Milan Lucic.
Milan Lucic contract. People get stupid on July 1st.
Yep.
And especially now, where the league is going with free agency, where nobody's available, and with teams having a whole fuck bunch of money, teams will get stupid again. And if I'm his agent, there is no way in hell I am advising my client to take a low offer from the Flyers.
Yeah, but Devo's the boss on that, and he might want to stay there because of Talkett, and he might sign for a little less to stay there.
It's very and if he wants that, yeah, but Rick, if he wants that, I have no issue with that. If he wants to sign 4 years at 4.5, I'll tomorrow sign him, no problem.
Yeah.
But if he's looking for 6.5, 7, I'm sorry, pass.
Yeah, for sure.
No,
for sure.
But Martone's coming, Bump's coming, Luchenko's coming, maybe even Barkey. We have guys that are coming that are gonna need space are gonna need a roster spot. So why am I gonna invest into this guy at 29? He's gonna be 30 in February and block someone else.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, again, like I'm gonna just last time I'm gonna say it, if he wants to take a low number to resign, no problem. If the money is what I think it is, then pass.
So here's where I'm at with Dvorak. If it's a short-term deal and only a short-term deal, it's not even the money that bothers me, it's the term. If he wants, say, a 2x6, I would be willing to listen to that. I'm not going any further than 2 years, though. That's the thing. Because I agree with a lot of your points, Eric. This is an outlier for him. He has never even hit 40 points before. He's going to be sniffing 60 at the pace he's going.
Yeah.
How much of this is Zegras? How much of this is playing with Konechny? How much of this playing with Michkov, Tippett, etc.? I don't know if he's ever had a combination of wingers, well, maybe in Montreal, because Montreal's got some good wingers.
No, I don't think he's had even that. So I think
the Phillies wingers are excellent. This is the strength of our team, is how deep our winger core is.
Yeah.
If he's never had a surplus of wingers to the extent that the Flyers have given him. So I do feel like that uplifts his game a bit. If he's willing to take, but here's where the issue lies. This team is so damn weak at center still. And do we know Jet Luchenko is definitely going to be ready next year? He's still in the OHL. I wouldn't mind giving Jet a year in the AHL to marinate, to get truly ready. Or if he dominates the AHL like Bump has recently, you can make him a mid-season call-up and then really just run with him then. Do you really want to take the chance of rushing Jet Luchenko? Because in the handful of games he has played here, I don't think he's even got a point yet. Mind you, this year he mainly played on the fourth line at the beginning of the year. So not like he's been given the best opportunities. But with that being said, do you feel like you have the comfortable centers enough to let a guy like him walk? Because you're going to have to find a replacement. And that means Cates and Couturier are locked into your top two center roles. Who's your next center? Rodrigo Abels? Especially if Jet Luchenko ain't here yet. That's where the big issue with me lies. I would be fine to a short-term deal with this guy, even if it is a bit of an overpayment, but it has to be short-term. I am not going past 2 years for that reason. This team has a bunch of cap this year. They're going to have over $40 million in cap. Now, yes, you got to pay Zegras. Obviously, Michkov's got an extension coming up. Forster's going to be getting paid at some point. All those guys. Money-wise, I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think, though, because just think, you're going to be trading some of these wingers soon for your Martones, your Barkeys, your Bumps of the world to be coming up to take some of those winger roles. I think Owen Tippett is him and Brink, one, if not both of those guys are as good as gone. Now, what you bring back could eat into some cap, but you're going to be probably more likely than not shedding at least a little bit of cap just to get these guys off the books to give a path to these wingers. So if you're telling me, especially with the way he's played this year, and yes, it probably is an anomaly, but the way he's played this year, he's willing to say, hey, listen, I like Talkett. I'm comfortable with him. I'm having a career year here. I want to stay here. It's a comfortable place for me. I'm willing to take less years, but I do still want to get a good chunk of change. Like I said, a 2x6 for this guy for 2 years, I'm up for that. But if it goes past 2, see you later. No, I do not want that. I want him as a stopgap guy until Luchenko is ready, until you add another center into the mix. Nesbitt still probably won't be ready. How much more is Sean Couturier going to continue to fall off? This guy is already starting to show major signs of decline. Do you really want to keep putting him in your top 6 next year? I think Devo's a better billion than Couturier already at this stage. Honestly, I don't want Sean Couturier in the top 6 anymore. If it's up to me, I'm putting Sean Couturier in your third line and sticking him there for the foreseeable future. But now Couturier, with all the major surgeries he's had, he's going to be, 34 next year? With all the mileage he's got over 900 games under his belt. I don't want him in the top 6 next year at all. And Devo, if you want to stick him in your second line as a stopgap guy until you find a better solution long-term, Jet Luchenko, a.k.a. maybe he's ready. I'm more than happy to do that in the short term. But at the same time, the Flyers need to make sure they have a long-term plan at center if they do this. I am open to signing him, but it has to be at the right term and money. That's where this really comes into play. I don't want Devo to have to think that he can get a big-time contract here. I do not want another Andrew Ladd, Milan. I don't want another Sean Couturier here, long story short. I don't want another contract like that. You don't want a Ladd or Poso or Lucic or whatever, or Brady Shea. That's another crap sandwich contract. Or Jonathan Huberdeau. Don't let this turn into that. Short term, yes. Long term, no. Long story short.
Yeah, I'd offer him 3 years at 4.5, 5.
If he's willing to take 3 by 4.5, I might be able to consider that. I don't want to go past 2. 2 by 6, I'll give him a little more money if it means I'll take 1 less year on the term. Because that by the time his contract runs out, you'll have money open up elsewhere, and you'll have guys ready to take his role.
Yeah, and a third year at 4.5 is probably movable.
Yeah. No, but look, my issue, again, like what you said makes perfect sense. The thing is, I don't think he takes a 2-year deal. I just don't.
That's where the issue lies. I agree there.
He's 30 years old. This is going to be the last chance he has to get like a pretty decent long-term contract. Because that's why I could see someone giving him maybe a 5-year deal, someone that's willing to go long-term on him.
And that's because, where I say goodbye.
Yeah, but that's it. Because again, where the cap is going, and that's it. And at his age, like, why would he take a 2-year deal? Again, even if let's say it is 6, okay, that's great. That's fine. But even at that, then at 32, again, if he doesn't live up to what he did like this year, now his next contract is gonna be way lower.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no, it's valid for sure.
That's why for me, I don't think he goes short term. I don't. It just doesn't make sense. Like in my rationale, it just doesn't make sense for him. And now, like, look, you said like for the replacement, what if Luchenko was like not available? Or maybe not necessarily not available, but maybe not ready. You want him to at least play like say half a year in the AHL. I think Danny just does exactly what he did this year with Devo, and instead like on let's say like a Alex Wenberg or a Charlie Coyle. If you have to overpay for 1 year just to bring in a center, just to be sure that your guy is ready or not, I'd rather take that chance. Let's say give Alex Wenberg, you know what? 1 year, $6 million, because he's making 5.1 now. Let's say 1 year, $6 million to Alex Wenberg, or Charlie Coyle, 1 year, $6 million, or 1 year, 5.5, whatever it is, whatever money you could afford to give another stopgap guy.
Yeah.
But like to go long term on Christian Dvorak for me is not the right way to go. But now again, who knows? We'll see. And I'm gonna repeat myself. If he's willing to go long term but small money, like for even if let's say it's 6 years, but like let's say he's willing to take 3 million AAV over 6 years. It's long, but at least I could live with the AAV, and that's fine. But again, I still probably wouldn't
I
do it. I think
probably
I could
wouldn't do
max
that.
4. 4 would
Yeah.
be my max in term.
Yeah.
But would I be pissed if the Flyers did that? I could maybe live with that.
They'd
But
have to
again,
move another winger. It's just where it comes down to replace that.
yeah.
Because eventually that's where he would end up as a winger role as time rolls on. You're not going to keep him at center the entirety of the contract.
No, but at least like then he can move down. Like once guys start coming in, then he moves down the lineup. Because I honestly look, I think at one point Brink and possibly Tippett are going to be gone to make room for like the wingers that are coming up. So there'll always be room for Dvorak that's on a fourth line.
Mhm.
But again, like I think Sean Couturier's final like destination on this team eventually is 4C. So like
I hope it's LTIR if you want my honest opinion.
But like, look again. Even if let's say Devo walks or he gets traded, and we don't bring it, which I think they would probably end up bringing somebody in. But like would I be pissed if like let's say we do one more season where Sean Couturier is your set? And again, it's not ideal. But if you move, let's say, Cates to Devo's spot where he is now, Couturier is your 2C and Luchenko is your 3. So at least you can ease him into the 3C position, where you don't have to give him crazy minutes right away. You could just like give him like 12 minutes a game, 13 minutes a game, ease him in. I could see that happening. And also at the same time, you're taking away Tocchet's toys. So you're like, now you're forced to play Luchenko as a 3C. Like, there's nobody else, Toc. There's nobody else. Luchenko has to play there.
That should be an episode name in the future.
And yeah, we got to start taking them away. We got to start taking away his toys. Eventually.
Oh my God. So. You make some good points. You know what? Maybe that would be a better idea. My main concern is just the inability, the lack there of center depth. And is Luchenko going to be ready? That isn't a bad idea. Going the 1 year route again like you did this year with a Wenberg or a Coy. I'd be up for that. The main primary issue for me, it's not mainly focused on Dvorak. It's focused on what else is there at center. I don't care even if it's for another year. This, in my opinion, has to be the last year of Sean Couturier in a top 6 role. I can't do it again next year. They've got, even if it means whoever you sign of that 1 year deal is your new 2C for the time being, fine. Even if Luchenko's here, I can't do any more Sean Couturier in the top 6. He is just not that kind of player anymore. His offensive game is diminished. He is slow as a snail. And now he's starting to make brain lapses that make me get a migraine, which I got last night. I don't need another one. No, actually, seriously, I woke up in the middle of the night with a migraine last night. It sucked. But anyway, it's about the depth down the middle. Long story short, you need to make sure that you have a real contingency plan. If you let Dvorak walk, you need to get another guy, even for the short term, even if Luchenko's ready, because I don't want this team has a history of rushing their prospects, and I don't want to go down that route anymore. I would be more than okay if Luchenko's ready and he impresses in camp, the team feels confident, keep him all year, fantastic. We run with it. If not, and there's still some questions to be answered, start him in the AHL. Let him marinate there a little bit. Don't feel pressure that you have to play him right away. He's still only, 20? So it's not like there's a fire under his ass to play him now. He's going to be here at some point. You know he's got a future here. Do it when the time is right. Long story short. And just make sure you have a contingency plan. Whether that is Dvorak or whether that's someone else and Dvorak isn't willing to take a short-term deal and you make perfect sense. It is his last chance to get paid. It is a real opportunity for him to test the market, make some big money. Maybe he does love playing for Tocchet, though. So who knows? Time will tell them. So.
But just one last thing. Well, actually, Luchenko's 19 because he couldn't play. He couldn't play in the AHL because of that. And two, look, I think Danny brings in another center at some point. I think it's gonna happen. No, I don't think it's gonna be like a high-end center because those guys just aren't available. But again, I'll bring up Buffalo. They have so many fucking centers that need to play and are not playing right now. So go get a Noah Austin, go get a Yuri Kulich, go get a fucking Constance Alenius, or like I don't know, like any other team that has like a bunch of these guys like in the minors or something. Like I just think I would rather Danny try and make that trade, like trade a Tippett or a Brink or whatever in a package to get another, like at least a middle six young center. I'd rather do that than try and then just like re-sign Devo, a 30-year-old Dvorak that like is having a career year that might not project to be more than a bottom six. It's just like this year, all just everything's clicking. Like I'd rather take that chance than actually just handcuffing yourself long term to a bad contract.
Yeah, that's where it really comes down to. Like, you don't want to get into cap hell again. It took a while to get a lot of these contracts out of here. They already have. You still have a few more that you got to get rid of eventually, but that's a conversation for another day. But let's move on to our next topic. Next topic being first period. Why does this team always allow the first goal? And other little issues that we may have with this team. I've got some theories. Eric, let me start with you. What is your theories where this team is having its issues, of why they seem like they always give up the first goal, and other potential issues that you may just have with this team in general so far?
Well, like, look, allowing the first goal, I think honestly, like, I think a lot of it has to do also with like the slow starts that like they seem to have. Like, I find it's been cleaned up a lot. Like as of late, we're not starting as slow as much as we used to. But yeah, early on in the season was a big issue. Like they just wouldn't show up in the first period. So I think a lot of that has to do with that. But like I was just like running the numbers and everything, and it's like they've allowed the first goal out of 30 games 20 times and have only scored first 10 times. And surprisingly, I thought the record was better, but they're 10-10. They have a 10-10 record when allowing the first goal. I didn't go through like overtime shutout, so it's just 10 wins, 10 losses combined, like overtime, shootout, whatever. So yeah, like that. I think again, the biggest issue I think is because of the slow starts that we tend to have. Other issues I'm having in general, like we gotta shoot more, man. Like we're hold on, where it goes. Shots. Yeah, shots.
Last night.
We're 31st. We're 31st in the league in shots at 24.9. But then again, like we only allow 25.7, which is the fifth best, fifth lowest allowed in the league. But still, like I'd like to see like a little bit of separation there. Like, we're technically still on average getting outshot more than we're shooting. So, and even goals for, we have 85 goals for on the season. That's 26th in the league. We've only allowed 84, so it's we're only +1 technically, and that's goals allowed. We're sixth best in the league at allowing goals. So it's like we're preventing a lot, but we're not really scoring a lot. So, and we're not shooting a lot. So that has to pick up a little bit. Our PK has been dipping like a little bit lately. Like we started super hot, but now it's been like we're at 15th in the league right now at 81.5%. Power play better than in the past.
I mean, it's not much to get worse. So,
so it's like, but 17.3%. We're 24th in the league. So, yeah. And actually, the power play had a rough week this week. Out of the 4 games, we had 6 opportunities and scored goose egg 0. 0 power play goals. All right. Like, no, it's fucking terrible, man. And yeah, so yeah, power play has to be like I'm not crazy about like how it's been just constantly kind of changing. It's like at one point, like the Kate's line was on the top unit, and then it's Mishkov and Zegras. They gotta figure something out, man, on this power play. And again, like I've said this before, and I thought they would do it now that like Forster got hurt, but instead they put Dvorak on the fucking power play. But like, can we just try Nikita Grabenkin net front on the second unit?
That makes too much sense, Eric. We can't do that. That makes too much sense.
Like, why can't we just try? Like, just try, please. Like, you see that he had success last year with the Phantoms playing net front. Like, can we just try? And I was looking at because we're talking about Dvorak before, and I was looking. He's never been a power play guy. Dvorak has never really been that much of a contributor on the power play. I think I'd written it down somewhere. I think 1 year in 1920 where he had 2 seasons.
2019, 2020.
The 1920 and the 2021 where he had 10 and 11 points respectively on the power play. Okay, not bad, not terrible. But since then, he's had nothing. So he's not really a power play guy.
Yeah.
So again, like we were talking about, if this is a guy that eventually is going to leave or the Flyers are not going to resign. Now, Forster's hurt. That's fine. Forster had a power play spot on the power play. Great. I understand. That's fine. That's fine with me. He's gone now. He's hurt. We have a kid that was playing, that played very well on the power play for the Phantoms last year, especially at net front. Can we at least try? And that's all I'm asking. It's just to try. Give it a... What is it going to make the power play worse? I guess maybe it could, but fuck, we scored 0 goals. We have 0 power play goals in 4 games. So come on. So anyway, yeah, that's just little things like that just bother me a little bit over the season so far. But again, these are things that we could possibly fix, that there are solutions for. It's just, you know what, and they just got to implement it, and that's it.
And with that being said, we have added Mr. Jamey Bastow. There we go. Jamey, how you doing today, bud?
Hey, aloha mahalo. Just doing a little bit of snow. We got some snow, so the kids wanted to go out. Cool thing about that was Noah's 7 and Dylan's 5, and they wanted to take some wood over to the elderly neighbors, some dry wood to heat up their wood stove. So that made us
good. Kids.
Yeah,
good
yeah. So I was pretty happy about that. Taking care of elderly, taking care of people. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? So their mom does a good job with raising them.
So I'm sure you played a part there, Jamey.
So we were just on the topic, Jamey, of pretty much issues that we may have the team right now, starting up with first period gaffes, pretty much, or how the team always seems to allow the first goal. So, Jamey, let me follow up at you now. Eric just went. What are on top of them having issues allowing the first goal constantly? What are some other issues you have with the team right now, just as a collective whole?
Well, the first goal issues definitely. I think I just have issues with everything. Travis Konechny just looks like a mess right now. In particular, you're thinking if it wasn't for Christian Dvorak, Trevor Zegras, Dan Vladar, where would this team be? Let's be honest here. And the cool thing is right now, Samuel Erson's actually finally playing well, although he reminds me a lot of Steve Mason. He lets up that one softie. He plays so well throughout the course of the game, but there's always one soft goal or 2 soft goals that are just suspect, but it'll make these bell saves, that are just so difficult to make. And, but overall, I think that, and I think there's a bit of overcoaching going on, in my opinion. I see the overcoaching a lot. My biggest gripe right now is that the overcoaching. You cannot overcoach Michkov, and I think that's what's happening, and that's why he's a little bit confused. I don't get the out of shape thing anymore. I think that's a has been. He's been working through that, you know what I mean, and stuff. So that's to the wayside. But if you're trying to tell him something mid game, he's not going to understand it, and that's where the overcoaching. He's got Rick Tocchet in his ear. Then he comes over and you got another assistant coach in his ear, and then you got Coots in his ear. This is all happening during the course of the game. If you look at the bench, there's 3 or 4 different people talking to him during the course of the game. And that's where the overcoaching, in my opinion, comes on. Wait until after the game. He's not going to understand anything. He doesn't understand the English language. There's still that dialect there, and it's understandable that there is. He's still learning the language. And that's where the confusing part for him comes in. He looks good, and then the next play, not so much. And I think it's because of the overcoaching. And then he goes out, he looks okay, and then looks like junk again. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. In Tockett's defense, he did use him in the overtime, yesterday. He did use them. He did use them in the shootout, you know what I mean? So it can't be, Rick Tockett's fault. Michkov just happened to have one of those bad games, but I think that's where the overcoaching, comes in. And I've been seeing that a lot, the overcoaching aspect. And not just with him, it looks like anytime like a young kid like makes a mistake, they come over and they talk to him. Sometimes they'll get a pat on the back, sometimes not so much. But it seems to be that, this year it's just what's being highlighted is Michkov. Anytime he makes a mistake, it's like, oh, you know what I mean? And, but another thing I see are like some of the stupid penalties that they take, here. And I think that really gets them off their rear end. You think about it, you play good teams like Carolina Hurricanes, the Vegas Golden Knights, Edmonton, that they recently played and stuff. When you're playing against teams like that have a high caliber offense, you can't give them freebies. And I say that, like it's easier said than done, but nonetheless, you can't give them freebies for ticky-tack penalties. Honestly, I saw a penalty in overtime that wasn't called yesterday. I was really shocked. TK grabs, he hooked somebody on the wrist. I was right in front of the ref, and the ref didn't call it. That was kind of cool, that the ref didn't call it. Nonetheless, you think about it. Now you're giving that team, an elusive team there. I saw Ghost in overtime. Like he played at least 3/4, if not 90% of that overtime for a reason. You give Carolina that 4-on-3 power play right there. You have a Ghost bomb from the back. Highly unlikely Urson saves that. You know what I mean? And
too well from OT.
Govan standing in front of him. You're not saving that shot. It's just not going to happen. So, it's just little things like that that'll just come to haunt the team. So, right now the overcoaching is my biggest gripe. The first goal was already mentioned. It was kind of cool to see the Flyers. It's weird right now. Like they either come back or get a lead and then surrender it. Like yesterday, they're up 2-0 to Carolina, who's a very good team. They surrender the lead. It's like they can't play with the lead, but they allow like a goal or two and have to come from behind. So it seems to me like they're not used to playing with the lead. So you know what I mean? That could be an issue that they'll have to work through, during the course of the season. And another thing, this is why my biggest gripe here is the overtime sessions. I mean, that's really going to come take a toll. They're not going to have many days off from here on out, up until, the Olympic break because of the condensed schedule, because of the Olympic break. So the more overtime, the more extra periods or shootouts that you got to play, it wears on the team, and that's why I think that their success right now is a bit unsustainable in a season like this year. If it was last year and they're playing this way, maybe not so much because it's not as a condensed schedule as it is this year. But this is really it's going to take a toll on this team. And I see it, this 10-game losing streak just coming out from nowhere because of just being tired and having to play so many games. And yes, other teams are playing that way, but other teams also haven't played their 12 out of their 30 games at least in overtime session. There haven't been many teams to play at least 12 out of the 30. We're talking about 18 games that, did not end or ended before, the overtime session at least. I'm not even talking about a shootout at that point. Just going into overtime, they've been there 12 times this year out of 30 games played. That's nearly half their games have been, have ended in overtime or a shootout. That's kind of crazy.
That is kind of crazy when you put it into perspective. Like they're on pace for about 30 overtime games this year, and it's another reason why I've been so adamant arguing the 3-2-1-0 system or just swapping in general. But again, argument for another day. Where we're at right now, first goal issues. I think you hit the hammer on the nail, Jamey. This team does not know how to play with a lead, and feels like they're more comfortable playing from behind because they're more lax. They don't have as much pressure on them. So I do think it's a bit of a mental game to an extent that, this team isn't the same exact way, but this reminds me a lot of the 2011-12 Flyers back in the day. When I watched that team, they had a habit of giving up the first goal, and they always found ways back into games. That team was actually really good. Probably the last extremely fun Flyers team outside of maybe 1920 that I can recall. But it kind of gave me a little bit of flashbacks to that particular team when it was the first year post Carter and Richards. It was mainly Giroux, Briere, Jaromir Jagr was here. Hartnell was in his 37-goal campaign. You were running with it was the year Chris Pronger messed up his eye, unfortunately. But
Oh man, that was
year,
too.
yeah, it's they don't play anywhere near the same style, but in like retrospect of being similar to allowing the first goal and just finding ways to come back quite often. Power play. I have an issue with this right now because while it kind of feels like last year again, where they started out of the gate hot and then kind of just fizzled. And that's what I'm starting to see now. They were hanging in the middle of the pack for the majority of the year, and now they're starting to fade a bit. Now they're back to 24th.
Yeah.
That needs to change. The power play cannot start going back into the Rocky Thompson era again. This team has not had a legitimately good power play since the Giroux, Voracek, Simmons era.
Yeah.
They have to get this to the middle of the pack. They will not make the playoffs if they're in the bottom quarter again.
Agreed.
It's just not going to happen. They have to get this power play in the middle of the pack.
100%.
I know losing Tyson Forster is big. And Eric mentioned this too before you hopped on, Jamey. Why the hell can't we play Nikita Grabenkin as a net front guy?
Yeah.
Why can't we do this? This guy should have been given that opportunity plenty of times. He has the perfect body for it. He's girthy. He can screen the puck. He did it with the Phantoms. I feel like he would be your probably second most threatening net front guy you've had since Wayne Simmons. You need a guy like that.
Yeah, you need a guy like yeah.
And you know who seems like they're playing right there now is Matvei Michkov. And I don't understand why he isn't playing one of the bumper spots. But why? Why is he the net front guy? I get he's with his size and girthiness and the way he plays, he can win a lot of those physical battles for pucks, but his shot is a lot more threatening. I want him on the corner to rip a 1T or to just snipe one. Don't put him in front of the net. Or at least in the slot where TK seems to hang out. Even that wouldn't be too terrible. But I want him in one of the corners. Preferably the friggin' side that he can rip his one-timers on. They seem, and another point Eric made that I agree with, I seem like they changed their power play units way too often as well. So pile it on the power play a little bit.
100%. That's a great mention, to be honest.
I will say I want to eventually see Sean Couturier into a bottom six role. I don't want him in the top six anymore, sooner rather than later. I've been harping on him all episode. I'd rather have Noah Cates at the 2C. I mean, up in that top six over him. None of these guys are 1C or maybe even resembling a 2C. But I feel more comfortable with Dvorak and Cates there than Dvorak and Couturier or Cates and Couturier. I think it's time. A change needs to be made there. Other things that boggle my mind is just how low actively offensively they are. They just don't put enough rubber on the net. Eric mentioned it again too. They average under 25 shots a game. They play a very low event defensive style of game when you have enough talent at the winger spot to be able to play at least some level of offense. Like, they need to get more pucks on net. There's no circling around it. Yesterday against Carolina, for example, I believe they had 18 shots on net, something like that. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, it was 2018, I think, the final count.
Vegas, 19. They had 30 against San Jose. Cool. That was decent. And you had 25 against Colorado, but that game they had, I think, 12 after two periods. A lot of those came in the third when they had to play a lot more desperate of game. So this team needs to find a way to let their shooters shoot constantly. Wayne Gretzky said it best himself. 100% of the shots you don't take don't go in. Now, you got to put pucks on the net. And another thing, I don't think this gets talked about enough. I feel like this team over-relies on shots from the point. You ever notice that? I feel like they take a lot more point shots than they need to.
I agree.
Take some shots off to the outside. I mean, outside a little bit. Play for a redirect from there. I'd like to see that more. Shoot from the slot. I know it's easier said than done, but just try to find ways to put pucks on net.
You're not going to, because Tuckett mentioned that the other day. He said that he wanted more middle shots. He wanted more shots from the middle point, whether that's point or slot, like you said. But
he's just against the bumper shots, and I don't get it. I really do not get it. Because this is going to catch up with them when some of these guys start getting on cold streaks. And the fact that their lack of quantity shots are going to not be going in, and they're going to be putting up 1, maybe 2 goals a game at most for a few game stretch. And it's going to be something we point to. It's like, why can't this team get consistent rubber on the net? It's just stuff like that boggles my mind. Talking system, I have to say, I had a discussion with this on Twitter. They play a better defensive game than they did with Tortorella. I'm willing to admit that with talking. But their offensive game is borderline non-existent at times. And that needs to change. Because in today's game, especially with all the skill and talent that is in the league, you have to keep up with that to some extent.
Yeah.
You can't win just playing Claude Julien hockey, as I call it, trying to win 2-1, 3-2 all the time. That's my 2 cents. That's what I got to get off my chest. Anyone else got anything else to add before we move on to our next point?
No, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the power play on Thursday. It was bad for that. Tortorella was in studio that day, so he's probably like, see, hasn't gotten better, hasn't improved at all.
he called Travis Konechny a wing nut. That was an interesting one.
He called.
You love that guy, though. That was Tortorella's favorite player on the team, I think, was Travis.
Yeah, but he meant it in a positive. He said it in a positive light, though.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
No.
He called him a wing, but he loved TK. It was a ball
He
busting.
did, but it was just so ironic that the power play is like you said, a mess. I didn't even bring that up, so it's great you brought it up. But it is a mess right now, and to me, it looks like they're looking for the perfect shot, and that's wrong. Like, just like you said, just throw the puck on net. You might get a juicy rebound and boom. But the net front presence has been an issue for the past, since Simmons has left, since Simmons has, left Philadelphia. That has been an issue. And, it's not the carrying of the puck anymore because they have that skill for people to carry the puck in the zone now. It has nothing to do with entering the zone cleanly because they've done that a lot this year. It's just they're not shooting the puck. It's all perimeter passing. Every single shot is just perimeter, and just shoot the puck on net. Just shoot it. You get that juicy rebound. You have, like you said, it's changing up after one bad game. Oh, I'm going to change this to try to make it better. I'm going to do this. That's the overcoaching aspect. That alludes to overcoaching. It's like, okay, I'm going to try to fine tune. And then when they start getting on a roll, it's like, oh, okay, I could try to improve it more. Just let them be. Just let it happen. Just let it flow. Tell them to put the puck on net. Just take that shot. You get a juicy rebound. But Taka just mentioned that. He said you're giving away the puck too much. He's very big on puck possession. So, he thinks the more time that they have the puck on their stick, the better shot they have is scoring, which is honestly, probably true. But if you don't throw the puck on net at times to get a juicy rebound, you're not getting that dirty goal. You're not getting a crazy goal. You're looking for finesse goals. And it's not going to happen against better teams, like Carolina's, the Vegas Golden Knights, Edmonton Oilers, Florida Panthers, who are going to start making the comeback here. Now they're going to start getting healthy here, and now you expect them to take over the East again. Jersey, when they start when Hughes comes back, he will probably be back sometime this week or next week. They're going to start lighting it up again. You know what I mean? And the Rangers are starting to find their niche, again. The Metro's going to start getting tight here, and it already is tight. But that's the point I'm trying to make is that they may have had a point lost last night to where that point could come in handy, down the road when you're, yes, we look, oh, it's only 1 point. Yeah, but that 1 point is crucial when you're battling for playoff position within your division. If it was 1 point to the Edmonton Oilers, not so big. But you're talking about another extra point into the division. Those are now 2 points lost, that they played Carolina this year. Those are 2 points that the Flyers could have had. One was negated. You remember, one was negated by, the ref, goaltender's interference. In their first game that they played, was his second or third game of the year.
That too.
And Carolina scored shortly thereafter. That was a point. Now this point, these points start to add up, and then if they go into overtime tonight, Carolina gets another point. Now you're 3 points. Now that's more than 2 games. 2 games that the Flyers have to make up somewhere that they may not be able to make up when it starts to get to the nitty gritty. this was the same way as Torts. Torts were losing these points. You know what I mean? And look where they ended, so, but it is what it is.
All right. With that being said, I figured we'd touch up on this last subject before we move on to next week's games. This is something you, especially, Jamey, were very adamant about. Quinn Hughes, he was traded this a couple days ago to the Minnesota Wild. Pretty big package there. Flyers were very in on him. I was hoping that we land him. Obviously, unfortunately, it did not happen. Jamey, let me start with you. What is your reaction to Quinn Hughes going there? Where do the Flyers go from here in terms of potentially finding some high-end talent?
To be honest with you, Quinn Hughes was on my target list, and I had him as a Flyer. So honestly, I'm a bit disappointed because with the way the Flyer season has trajected, now they would have went from playoff bubble to not making the playoffs to instantly a contender overnight. That's the type of trade that fans have craved in Philadelphia to say, okay, the Flyers are here to take the next step. That would have been the next step, in a rebuild, you know what I mean? And honestly, it probably would have been the right time to do it. Some people are saying it's not the right time. Well, really, truthfully, is there a right time to make that type of deal? Minnesota went from pretenders to contenders in just one calendar in one night. Like they had guts. Bill Guerin took risk. He's like, hey, okay, I'll give up Marco Rossi. Okay, I'll give up Zeb Byam, who, the Flyers could have had. That does that now show the Flyers, hey, the teams don't covet Luchenko like they do Byam? Maybe the Flyers made a bad, selection with Jet Luchenko. Now you just have all this other conversation. If Byam wasn't part of that deal, I don't think I would be as disappointed. You know what I mean? If Byam wasn't there. Now it makes me think, did the Flyers really select the best player available? Because you're looking at Byam, that just made me think he's a top tier. That's what, they think he's the creme de la creme. Yeah. Would teams think that of Luchenko? You know what I mean? Is he the creme de la creme? So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm definitely not angry at the organization for that. I'd say I'm a bit disappointed because I thought that the Flyers were going to take a big swing. Now that you're looking at the free agent class, that is no longer there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that now they're going to have money next year. So now you had money to tie up Quinn Hughes. You could throw 11.5, 12 million, 13 million at him with no problem. You know what I mean? Because that's how much, they would cover Quinn Hughes. And I'm sure with him staying local and being close to his family, he would re-sign in Philadelphia. Now him going to Minnesota, that's not a bad deal for his family either. That's sort of not the closest, but, they could take private jets or whatever to fly, game to game. He's closer, at least from Vancouver, now with him going to Minnesota to Jersey, that makes it a little easier, I guess, travel-wise. But that's the thing is there never is a right time to take a big swing. But to me, that was the right time to take a big swing, showing the fan base, hey, we mean business here. You know what I mean? We are thinking about taking the next step in the rebuild. So I'm definitely not angered. I guess I'm more or less not even disappointed, more or less shocked because I wouldn't have expected a team like the Wild. But you look, now we're finding out Buffalo tried to go after Quinn Hughes. Philadelphia was nowhere mentioned.
The Rangers too, I heard.
They checked in on him. That was it. But it was like Buffalo made a serious consensus for Quinn Hughes, and that makes me a bit disappointed there. When is it the right time? There is no right time to take a big swing. You know what I mean? You're giving up assets either way. You know what I mean? And you get that 1A, that changes the whole complexion of the team. You know what I mean? Now you have that back end with Ristolainen and Jamie Drysdale, and Mil Andre, if they didn't want Andre, because, you're looking, would Oliver Bonk maybe have got it done? Maybe not. So maybe a Mil Andre isn't there, anymore. But at least you have a large part of your back end contained and solidified for the years coming. You have your goaltender solidified in Dan Vladar. You know what I mean? At the very least, Dan Vladar, because I think they'll re-sign Urson, and give Zbragin more time. But, at least they have it with Vladar. He's under control. You know what I mean? So you have your goaltending, your defense. And what do you always do? how do you rebuild your team? You build from the net out, right? So you got Vladar. You would have had your defense, and now you could focus on the offense and try to obtain a 2C/1C. You know what I mean? Now you're building something here. But now they're still in limbo for a quasi 1A, 1B, defenseman. So now they're not building from the net out anymore. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, that Quinn Hughes was it. I think the Flyers should have been large players or bigger players than what they were for Quinn Hughes.
It sounds like they would have had to give a Michkov or Martone to make that even a conversation starter. And Danny seemed like he was adamant that he was not giving either of them. So I'm guessing that probably just ended the conversation there and then, because I think Danny wants to build through those two wingers. He didn't even want to give up Tyson Forster for him. I feel like Owen Tippett or Cam York, as we've talked about prior, would have probably been the focal points of a trade involving him and maybe some of your prospects or picks. But it looks like I don't think you would have matched the package Minnesota ended up giving up. Me personally, I get not matching that. It's disappointing for sure. But for what you would have had to give up without getting a surefire thing of him extending, I understand it. I'm not going to give them flack for that. The only thing is, if you're considering Michkov untouchable, you fucking use him like he is. Sorry, that just aggravates me. But anyway, yeah, they've got to use him more, but they've got their untouchables, and I understand not wanting to give up those two. I understand that, so it would have been tough to make work otherwise. Eric, how about you? What do you think?
Well, look, honestly, I guess it's something that we're going to touch on a little bit more on Papa on our NHL podcast, but I think I'm in the minority here who actually think that this might not end up being a good move for Minnesota. I think it's an overpay for someone who's not extended right now, with no guarantee that he's even gonna extend. Because look, I'm gonna talk about this in Minnesota. Look, yes, you're getting probably the second best defenseman in the league. Granted, second best defenseman in the league. At the end of the day, you gave up your 2C, and now you have nothing behind it. So you have Ek as your 1C, and now you get rid of Marco Rossi for whatever reason. Guerin just hated this guy. You have, what's his name? Yurov, I think is his name. Let me just pull it up here quick. Yeah, you have Danil Yurov, who's pretty much playing as your 3C.
Yeah, he did well last night.
Yeah, look, he's a good young player. But the problem is he's not, I think he has 7 points on the season. I don't know if he scored last night, but I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying that Yurov's a bad player. The thing is, I think this was a move that was a bit premature for Minnesota.
Yeah.
And if Quinn Hughes walks, you just lost probably your best prospect and your 2C, another decent prospect and a first round pick for a year, maybe a year and a half of Quinn Hughes. It's a big risk to take, and it's a big swing. Look, I'll give it to Guerin. This is a massive swing.
Yeah.
But again, I want to look more in depth into Minnesota's numbers, because look, Minnesota had a terrible month of October. Minnesota, I don't know if you remember, they were struggling in October.
All they could do was score in the power play. They couldn't score 5. Yeah. Yeah.
And then they had a great month of November, which it seems like is being carried a lot by their goaltending.
Oh, yeah.
So when you have a team that's being carried by your goaltending, is this true value? So look, huge swing by Guerin. I don't know if I hope. Anyway, I hope for him it works out. But it's a big risk. And like you said, Alex, a comparable package is most probably Martone, Cam York, Nesbitt, and a first. That's your pretty much more or less your comparable. Yeah. But the problem is also that you're not what I heard is that Vancouver really wanted a center. They needed a center in that package, a center that could play now. Issue is Flyers, even if we wanted to make a package to Vancouver to get Quinn Hughes, we didn't have that guy. We don't. unless it was you wanted to give Christian Dvorak. No, like the guy's gonna walk at the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's not enticing enough for them anyway. So.
Yeah. So look, would Luchenko have really been that mover? Because Luchenko can't play now either. Luchenko maybe next year, but Luchenko can't play now.
Yeah.
So if you're asking me, would I have done that trade like Martone, York, and Nesbitt, like just somewhat comparable? No, I'm sorry. I do not risk, especially a team like the Flyers, that even with Quinn Hughes, yes, he would take us maybe to the next step.
Yeah.
But then if he walks in a year and a half, and then like I think Anthony DeMarco had posted that, the Flyers are willing to take that risk. I don't know if I really believe. I think, yes, they are willing to take that risk if the package is something like York and a first and a B prospect. You know what? I'll take that chance.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll take that. But if we're talking Martone, we're talking, or even Mishkov, and I brought this up before, Luchenko. For me, Luchenko, and I've said this before, is an untouchable on our team, not because I think he's gonna be 100-point player. Just because we have nothing in the system. We have nothing. Like that's NHL ready. I'm like close to being NHL ready. So I don't give. So like you said also, Alex, I think Vancouver probably asked for a Martone, asked for a Mishkov or whatever, and Danny Bear is like, I'm not trading you these guys if there's no contract in place. So look, good for Minnesota. Like hopefully it works out for them. I have questions. Like I question this move by Minnesota. I think this trade for me has a lot of has not a high percentage, but like there's a percentage of backfire in it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
See, I think Minnesota's like they have an elite player in Kaprizov. They have a budding superstar now in Matt Boldy. So they're like, okay,
I love Boldy, yeah.
Boldy's crazy. He's putting up crazy numbers. It's like every game he has like a point. Dude's nuts. So I think they're like, you know what? Now's the right time to take that type of swing. I don't think they were expecting Boldy. I think I mentioned this to Alex. I don't think that they were expecting Boldy to be the player he is right now. I don't think they expected it this soon. You know what I mean? He's just crazy freaking good this year. But I think you're right. I don't think the Flyers are ready to take that swing. So I'm not like discrediting like Anthony and stuff like that. I think they're willing to take a swing, but not like that. Because if they were, then they would have been one of those 6 teams that were mentioned for serious conversation for Quinn Hughes. So I absolutely agree with you 100% with that, Eric.
This is where they need to get some more centers, not just for their own system, but even for this type of trade package, because they're a hot commodity around the league. Everyone needs them, it seems like right now, including you. So that's got to be something they address in the future. Yeah. But anything else to add before we move on to next week's games?
Yeah, just real quick. 2027 offseason, Hughes could be available. So we could still, and we'd be in a better position to sign him, and he would fit better in our team.
Yeah. At that point, dream might be dead, but 2027 is alive and well.
I'm just saying, we could actually get Quinn Hughes, and it'll be for free. So
we woke up.
My deadline dashes were fizzled in one night, man. It was like, like that, you put some wood on the fire, for your fireplace, boom, shattered. One night, just one night, goodbye.
All right, boys, let's move on to next week's games. With that being said, Flyers have 4 games again this week, all on the road. As we record this, it is Sunday morning, 12:15 p.m. At Carolina today at 5 p.m. as we're recording this. Tuesday at Montreal at 7 p.m. Thursday at Buffalo, 7:30 p.m. That will be on ESPN+. And Saturday, this one's probably the one I'm looking forward to the most, 12:30 afternoon matinee against the New York Rangers. I always like those games against the Rangers.
That's at the Garden, right?
Yep, all 4 on the road. The Flyers literally only have one more home game left for the month of December. So we're going to be doing a lot of road traveling that's coming up, boys. So with that being said, the beginning of this road trip starts today. Give me a record for the week. I'll start with you, Eric.
That's a good one. I think this is going to be a 2-2 week. I think I go 2-2.
Which is which?
I think we beat Carolina in a little bit of a revenge game from last night. I actually think we're gonna. Montreal's actually playing pretty terrible of late. Oh man. Okay, let me change that. We're gonna lose to Carolina because I don't know. They seem to have our number. We're gonna beat Montreal, beat Buffalo, and then lose. What did you say? The Rangers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then lose to the Rangers. The Rangers have been playing a little better of late, so I think maybe after end of the week, Flyers will be a little tired. Maybe they should win that game, but they probably won't. They're gonna have some mush legs. So yeah, I think they lose to the Rangers and Carolina, but beat Montreal and Buffalo.
Jamey, your turn.
1-3.
Ooh.
I had them winning today in Carolina, but I had them losing for some reason. Every time they go to Montreal, last year I said the Flyers would win 8-0, and then they get blasted and they lost 8-1 or something like that. You remember that? It was something crazy.
9-3, I think it was. That was 2 years ago, though, not last year.
I've been on Rick about this because I was like, oh, the Flyers will smash them. You know what I mean? And so I got them losing Montreal 4-2. They get that last empty netter. Losing to Buffalo, that's a pretty tall task. Buffalo isn't playing bad hockey right now. They're not playing the greatest hockey, but they're not playing bad hockey either. I just think that the Flyers, with being on the road and this condensed schedule and stuff, this is a lot. You know what I mean? They have a back-to-back. This is a second leg of a back-to-back. Then you play Montreal, and then you got to fly again. If they were at home, somewhere in there, say if they were at home Tuesday, and then had to then go to Buffalo, that would be a little far better. But I had them losing to Buffalo and then losing to New York too.
All right. I'm going to go 2-1-1 this week. I got them losing today at Carolina in overtime. I'm going to say 4-3, complete repeat of last night. I got them beating Montreal. I'm going to say 5-3. Then I'm actually going to have them lose at Buffalo. That's going to be the game that they should win, that they lose, and make us all want to pull our hairs out. I'm going to say they lose that one 2-0. I'm going to say they get shut out by Buffalo. And then, don't know why, I think they go into the Garden and beat the fuck out of the Rangers in rebound fashion. I'm going to say 6-2 win there. But yeah. So 2-1-1 week I'm going to go with. But with that being said, Eric had to go, everyone. That is going to wrap things up for this week's episode of the Pucking Around podcast. As always, like, comment, and subscribe for more. Please, we appreciate each and every like, each and every comment, each and every subscription. They are all big and critical to us, and our goal to hit 500 subscribers here. We're trying to grow our channel. We may, as a channel, just as a whole, have a little bit of a surprise come in the upcoming month or two. Not confirmed yet. We'll explain as it comes on, but we'll see. But yeah, as always, that is going to do it for this week's episode. And as always, check out our store. It is something that we have been trying to emphasize continuously over the last few weeks. We write in the QR code in the top left-hand corner, it'll be a direct link to said store, not show. I'm sorry. Check out all the products we have. We have clothing, we have miscellaneous when it comes to cups or, bumper stickers or other stuff like that. All the good stuff. Check it out there in the miscellaneous. In the QR code above. My brain's malfunctioning, but that's going to wrap things up here. Thank you all for tuning in for another awesome installment of Flyer Gonna Flyer, and we'll see you next week. And as always, take care and let's go Flyers.